Good morning, gentlemen. A bright sun outside. Nice talking to you. I'm going to talk about India and its leadership. You all must remember that famous book, The Continent of Circe, written by Niraj Chaudhary. It's a wonderful book. I'll give you the gist of the story about Circe, and you can see what it means. Now, Circe was a very beautiful woman. She was maybe more beautiful even than Helen, and but actually she was a witch, and she lived on an island called Circe. Now, Ulysses, the great warrior, he was going by ship home and he heard a lovely woman singing, and he was very much curious to know who this lady is. And he sent his soldiers to find out. What this woman did, she converted all the men into sheep. And then Ulysses had to go there. He made love to her, and of course, he fell in love with her. And the sheep were released back to men. I'm going to tell you the story of Ulysses. That's not my aim. I'm going to tell you that India is the land of Circe. That means anybody who comes to India becomes a sheep. It's a very surprising, comparison which I'm giving, but that is a fact. Whether it's a Muslim or a Christian, whoever came to India became a sheep. And now we got Narendra Modi, who's the Prime Minister of India. I'm afraid he's also under the spell of Circe, and so long as in India he's a sheep, but when he goes out he becomes a lion. Now, why should he become a sheep here? And I'll tell you some of the acts which he has done. Let's take the Maldives. Now, Maldives revolted against India. Their president insulted India. He threw out the Indian soldiers. There were 700 of them there for anti-piracy activities. And he was going to China mouthing anti-India slogans, and Modi did nothing. He did nothing. Ultimately, of course, the politics of finance crept in, and the president of Maldives had to change track. In that respect, if you remember, in 1987, Rajiv Gandhi had allowed, or rather ordered, the Indian army to move into the Maldives, and the giant bird, the IL-76 carrying Indian troops, flew direct from Agra to the Maldives. There was a military coup there, and it was curbed in the bud. So that's the point, gentlemen. And Modi was faltering as far as the Maldives is concerned. Come down to Bangladesh. It's a very sad story. Now we have a security advisor who seems to be moving all around, and people keep talking he's a great man. He's a wonderful man. I like him. He's an ex-IPS officer. But the fact is, he didn't know a damn thing about what's happening in Bangladesh. That there's an insurrection being planned against Sheikh Hasina, and Sheikh Hasina had to flee the country, and Modi couldn't do a damn thing. This is something he should have stopped at that time. And then after that, he was just trying to placate Bangladesh, and that's the typical attitude of the sheep. He allowed election to them. Even he allowed the Indian grid to be given for supply of electricity from Nepal to Bangladesh, and he gave thousands of tons of rice to Bangladesh. I could understand what's the necessity of doing all this. There was a moment when the students had agitated. Indian troops should have been moved into Bangladesh. It would have been a cakewalk, like it was in 1971 under Manik Shah and General Nagra and General Jagjeet Singh Arora. All that was required to capture the Dhaka cantonment, the general headquarters in Bangladesh would have collapsed. But he didn't have the guts, he didn't do it, and that's the sad part of the whole story. And now the result is that thousands of Hindus have been killed, many Hindu girls have been kidnapped, raped, and the local populace have enjoying them, and Modi has been sitting in Delhi doing nothing. But as I told you, when he goes abroad, he becomes a tiger, he talks a lot of things, and when he's in home, he doesn't do a thing. Now, he's been condemning terrorism all the time, but I'm yet to understand why he is not condemned and not banned Hamas as a terrorist organization. He's not even backed the Hezbollah. And that's a very sad occurrence, I should say, for a prime minister. The orange juice, good one and freshly prepared. Well, coming down to the leadership of Modi, I think there's a lot which requires to be done. 11 years is a long time which he had in power, and he had made a lot of promises to the people. He promised a uniform civil code. Where's it gone? It hasn't come. And he had promised so many things, and that resulted in a big zero. Now look at the Waqf board. Why should he wait for 11 years to have got it done, the act to be now? And it's even now not passed by Parliament. I believe he's going to introduce it after Holi. But when he had a majority, why didn't he do it? These were things he should have done in the first turn so that the people could have reaped the benefit. But I'm afraid, I think that sheep mentality is what got into it, and he hasn't really acted. And another big failure of his is facing the Punjab farmers. Now, he should have known by now that the Punjab farmers are not his friends. They're not pro BJP supporters, and despite he being trying to placate the farmers by so many things, like taking the farm laws back, I couldn't understand why he took the laws back. It's not required. What he should have done was allowed the laws to continue and allowed the states who didn't want to implement it, don't implement it. And those who want to implement it, go ahead, because they're very good farm laws. But took the whole stock back and made a apologetic statement thinking you're going to win in Punjab. I think they couldn't win a single seat there. So that's a sad part of the whole thing. And not only that, many of the BJP MLAs and leaders were running around for their lives, and the extremists were running after them. So there again, he was a total failure. He's been a failure as far as Tamil Nadu is also concerned. He's got to win over the Tamil people. You must remember that Annadurai, who was the leader of the Tamil movement, way back, I think when he took power in 1960 or something, he had asked for secession of the Tamil state from the Indian Union. I mean, it's not something which may not happen. Why give a reason to that sort of thing? And I think Modi should be well aware that Pakistan broke up on the issue of language. That's how East Pakistan broke up. When Pakistan wanted to enforce Urdu all over the country, and the Bengalis said, well, our language is our language, Bengali, and we won't study Urdu, and so it broke up. So I'm not against Hindi. Anybody wants to study Hindi can do it. Yeah, it's a wonderful language. But gentlemen, you can't enforce it on anybody. And even if one man or one state in India says they don't want Hindi, you can't have Hindi in the country. Why? Already Nagaland, as you know, declared English as the state language. Now, can you deny that? How is Hindi going to be all over the country? You can't enforce it. And you can't make plans by means of which you want to take away English from the country. English is our window to the world. In fact, it is the doorway to progress. And it's about time the BJP leadership decided to realize this. The sad part is that none of the BJP top leaders, whether it's Rajnath Singh or Modi, are fluent in English. I haven't seen them talk English anyway. And Modi, I think, really cuts a sorry figure abroad. That's what I feel. When people ask him questions in English and he gives some answers in Hindi, he's not fluent. Though I did say he did try, because I remember sometime he addressed the Australian Parliament in English, but his accent was pretty poor, and he couldn't talk properly. So, gentlemen, there's so many things going on with Narendra Modi. I've just given the tip of the iceberg, and there's so many things happening all around the country. See, one thing you must remember that we have about 15 to 18% of Muslims in the country, which is a very sizable minority. And it is the largest population, I think, after Indonesia. So India has got to be very careful. You have to take the Muslim population with you. And tomorrow, just God forbid, if the Muslim population starts revolting, it's going to be terror, hell bent for terror in India. How are you going to do it? So you have to keep the Muslims with you, and those who are nationalist Muslims, there are many of them here who don't want to go to Pakistan or something like that. Well, you've got to keep them on their side. I can give you the mentality of few of the Muslims here. I have a maid working here, and I just asked her casually. I said, "Would you like to go to Pakistan?" She just jumped. She said, "Yes." And just imagine, here's a woman who's been staying all her life in India, and at the first opportunity, she said, "I'll go to Pakistan." Now, what is the magic? It's There's no magic. It is the Muslim mindset, and that mindset you can't change. But at the same time, you live with it, and you have to have contingency plans. Why should there be rioting in India all the time? Why are not the rioters sentenced to death? A couple of rioters sentenced to death would have solved the problem. The problem with India is that we are prepared to bleed or make a cut, but not use the sword to behead. If you can't do that, you can't win anyway. After all, that's what happened when Prithviraj Chauhan met Muhammad Ghori in the famous battle. You know he won the war, the first battle of the reign, but he allowed Ghori to get away. Why should he do that? He should have captured him. I'm told he was captured and released. And Ghori came back in the second battle of the reign, and it was a different story. He took Prithviraj as a prisoner to Kabul and beheaded him there. Very sad. So, gentlemen, I'm coming to the fact that you've got to be ruthless when you deal with people, and you've got to be ruthless when you have to put the Indian agenda forward. He'd been talking a lot of Hindutva. I think by now, had he started in the second term, when he had a comfortable majority, the constitution could have been amended to declare India a Hindu Rashtra. He didn't do it. And now it's going to be more and more difficult every year. Because in 29, you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, it's a long way off, 4 years. Where's the guarantee that the BJP come back to power again? If they continue in this manner and the economy goes into doldrums, the BJP and Modi may well be sitting in the benches outside. So what is the future, gentlemen, for the BJP? I have a suggestion, and that is the one man who I feel is needed at this moment to lead the nation is Yogi Adityanath. He's a wonderful man, and he's a man who's got a clear sight. He knows what he's got to do, and he is not a sheep. That's the first thing. The spell of Cersei doesn't work on him. Look at the way he obliterated the Muslim gangsters in UP. All of them were shot, killed, and there were two of them who were MPs and they were sent to the next world. Enjoy yourself there. And so you have to be ruthless if you want to succeed. See the life of Lao Tse-tung and Joseph Stalin, even Winston Churchill. They were ruthless people. And Churchill was a man who approved the carpet bombing of the German cities when Air Marshal Lord Tedder had asked for it. That's a fact of history. Massive bombing of the German cities commenced when Churchill approved it. And hundreds of thousands of civilians were killed. So anyway, gentlemen, I'm not in favor that you keep killing people. Certainly not. I'm not the man who says such things. But what I'm saying is you've got to be firm. You've got to be firm. You've got to do something. And let's not get into such things. At the same time, Hindutva is what is required now. The Hindu nation is in a renaissance. And Modi was expected to do it, but he hasn't done it. I think he's become a sheep of Cersei. So, gentlemen, let's see what happens and whether our good friend Yogi Adityanath, I'll say cheers to him with a glass of orange juice. I hope he can do it and ensure that justice is done to India. Because for 1,000 years, India has been ruled by the Muslims. There's no point in trying to wipe off that era. You can't wipe it off. Let's build on a new era and show that the Indians can rise up. Indians can take hard decisions, ban Hamas, ban Hezbollah, declare Palestine the way Donald Trump is supporting it. Support Donald Trump. Be with Israel. Be with the UAE and other countries. And that is where India has to move forward. And India must be also wary of China. I don't have anything more to say, gentlemen. I hope it's a general talk which I gave you. I just want to connect Cersei to the Indian ethos and culture as a fact of history. There's a great writer who gave this, you know, comparison. Goodbye. If you like this video, share it with your friends and come back for more. In the meanwhile, I'll say goodbye, God bless, and Jai Hind.